So welcome to another webcast. It's Steve and Michael Fox from Border City Financial. Today we have an incredible opportunity to have a conversation with Chris Reynolds, and we're very much looking forward to spending a little bit of time with him to get a little bit of feedback from a very different perspective, and that is going to be from Investment Planning Council and also his experience not only as a former financial advisor, but also as the CEO and president of the dealership Investment Planning Council. So welcome, Chris. We're delighted to have you here. Chris, Michael and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with us. This is a busy and challenging time for all of us and for everyone as we navigate our way through this unusual experience of COVID-19 and the many changes that our industry has had to absorb over a very short period of time. COVID-19 has changed so many things about the way we think, about the way we act and interact. It has to some extent affected all of our finances in some way, shape, or form. Chris, we're interested in your thoughts on how COVID-19 is affecting the financial services industry in particular now, as we're all currently working from home, and also in the future. I believe that we in Windsor and Essex County are now the last region in Ontario still stuck in phase one, as we discussed earlier that Toronto has now moved on to phase two, and we are still stuck in phase one. So we're very familiar with how this is affecting our local businesses. So I also want to give everyone a little bit of background on who Chris is. Chris built an Investment Planning Council from the ground up and has led it since its inception. Who better to lead a financial services company than someone who was a financial advisor himself, and he co-founded IPC in 1996. We chose Investment Planning Council as our dealer in December of 1998, so we weren't there from the beginning, but we've certainly been there for a while, so we know each other well.
So, Chris, I would like to take you back to when you were an advisor. You may or may not have envisioned becoming the president and CEO of a premier investment dealer in Canada. So I'd like you to tell me a little bit about your original vision for IPC and a little bit about where you see IPC going from here.
Well, that's a good question. First, thank you both, Steve and Mike, for having me on. This is a great honor to get to speak to all your clients. And the question is, what did I see? Well, every company has sort of, I guess, its founding principles. And our principles were really to help advisors service their clients better and create a great client experience around advice. And it's my true belief that everybody needs financial advice. It's a very busy, complex world. There's so many things going on, and certainly you can see it now in midst of this pandemic. This is where people really need advice. And it's not just investment advice, it's advice around their estate, on looking after their loved ones, it's taxation, it's all kinds of different elements of financial planning. So, you know, the founding premise, of course, of IPC was to help advisors build a better business through delivering a great client experience. And that was our founding mission, and it's our mission today. And I think we've done a good job at providing, you know, all the resources and the platforms for our advisors to provide that great advice. Now, where do we see it going? Well, I think this advent of technology is really going to increase the scope of the advice that we can give to clients. In other words, there are a lot of clients who want financial advice, just find it very difficult to get in their car, you know, maybe find babysitters, you know, go find their spouse and actually put them in the car, drive them to their financial advisor for, you know, more advice. I think now utilizing this type of technology that we're on right now allows people to talk to their advisors when they're concerned about different things in their lives, when things like this pandemic hit, what to do with your finances. I can speak from personal experience, like when the pandemic hit, and of course the markets all tanked and everyone was shaky and there was panic everywhere. Long lost relatives from all over the world were calling me, what should I do with my money and where should I go and what should I do, all the way from Australia to South Africa to Switzerland to even when I say locally in Vancouver. I had basically every client or cousin, second cousin, third cousin calling me. Now, because of the powers of technology, you can get that advice, with a press of a button and talking to a real live person who understands your situation and can give you that advice. I think we're going to see big things. I think we've accelerated about 5 years in about 3 months. So I'm excited to see where this takes us.
Chris, you've always focused on what clients need and want to simplify the complex and focus on communication. During this pandemic, you and your leadership team has stepped up in the most dramatic way to communicate not only with us, but to help us to communicate useful and timely information to our clients. Where do you think the average investor is in the middle of this time?
Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised at this in this time period. And why I'm pleasantly surprised is we haven't seen the extreme reaction that we've seen in past crisis. Certainly none of us have ever been through a pandemic. None of us are old enough to have been through anything like we've had before. But all of us, certainly myself and yourself, Steve, have been through everything from terrorist attacks on US soil to complete financial meltdowns to the tech wrecks to the, I was around, believe it or not, in the early recession of the 90s. And certainly the reaction time was much more negative to some of those. Certainly we saw sort of the whipsaw type of effect that we saw in the market early March or sort of into mid-March. But we haven't really seen a lot of clients moving to cash and panicking and making irrational decisions. And I think that's really due to the advice that people have been given. Whereas prior to that, maybe they didn't have that same level of advice and level-headedness to speak to during this time. And as a result, again, we've seen the markets recover quite nicely. And for the advisors who, reallocated some of their clients, we've seen them actually benefit from this volatility that we've seen in the market. Now, is there more to come? Absolutely. Like we're in the midst of a time where it's really unprecedented and no one can know the future. But as long as you're holding steady, you're not making irrational decisions, you're keeping a cool head, I think we'll get through it because, as we all know, this too shall pass, and this pandemic, this too shall pass.
Thanks for that, Chris. I know that a lot of times when investors experience a bear market and there's lots of volatility, people might be tempted to sell their investments in order to stop it from falling even further. What kind of advice would you give to clients, and where do you think the IPC clients are in relation to the larger group of investors in Canada?
Well, I think the simple fact that advisors are there to calm clients during this time has had a very big mitigating effect, at least in our client base from observation, of not that panic type selling. And in fact, it's a good thing, because if you look at anything from the S&P index and where it was in March compared to where it was now, imagine if you were the client who had sold during that time period and would have missed something like an 8,000 point increase in just that mechanism alone. So I think that we have done a good job at communicating with our clients, letting them know where they stand, letting them know what their options are, and in some cases, taking action. Other cases, actually putting more money into it. Now you compare that to the average consumer who doesn't have someone to rely on or doesn't have that advice. It's scary. All you have to do is watch some of these news channels and see all this terror that is being broadcast. That can make anybody nervous. And if you don't have somebody who's really in the know, it makes you do, sometimes things that are irrational and that you regret later on. And they can have a real adverse effect on your savings, on your investing, on your planned retirement, on your income. So as I said, if I look statistically, I haven't seen that level of panic or that level of panic selling with IPC clients, but certainly if you look across the industry, you've certainly seen some movements in the cash, which I think was a big mistake. So this is where advice really comes in handy.
One of the questions that we get asked, maybe not often, but from time to time, and certainly during a time like this, it is a potential question in clients' minds, is what is the financial strength of IPC? Maybe we have or have not done a great job of explaining to our clients and our prospects the financial security that comes as being part of the group of Power Financial companies. So if you would maybe just take a couple of minutes, since you would be extremely familiar with this, Chris, and maybe reassure or give some assurance to our clients about what it means to be part of this group of companies.
Very good point, Steve. And it's something that sometimes I think we do take for granted. IPC being, I'm going to put a mid-sized company where we manage about $30 billion on behalf of probably over 200,000 clients across Canada. But we're part of a much larger organization, which is IGM Financial, which is a publicly traded company. Which would manage somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 billion on behalf of over 1 million clients. And then in turn, that company is owned by Power Financial, as you mentioned, which is by market capitalization currently around the 14th largest company in Canada. So it's actually bigger than most of the Canadian banks for market capitalization. So we're extremely financially secure, but not only that, the advantage to a consumer is not only that financial security, but certainly access to technology like we're seeing now, access to backup systems and security as it relates to their data, and all the systems that we put in place to ensure privacy on behalf of our clients, and also our influences in the market in general. So all of those things certainly benefit both our advisors and their clients.
When the pandemic started, and all of us got notified that we had to work from home, IPC was very quick to implement solutions to allow their advisors to continue to service their clients despite not having an office to work from. Could you tell us a little bit more about the solutions that IPC has provided their advisors so that we can continue to serve our clients?
Again, that's a great question, Michael. And it wasn't something that we weren't thinking about before. Certainly nobody was thinking about a pandemic, that I can assure you. However, we did see the trend towards greater mobility on the behalf of our clients and greater mobility on behalf of our advisors. And a year previous, actually 2 years previous to when all this pandemic hit, we had launched a program called Advisor Anywhere. And that was, in partnership with Microsoft, and it's actually the software we're using right now to do this video that allows advisors to interact with their clients literally anywhere using this technology. On top of that, we had already looked at moving to electronic signature, electronic account opening, making that whole process a lot easier. Certainly it was tough dragging the regulators along down that path, since we are a very paper-oriented industry and have been for 100 years. But when so we had already been down this path, and we had been pushing down this path a bit slowly, right? The implementation of Advisor Anywhere was probably less than 20% across our advisors, probably about 80% internally, but still not everyone was utilizing all the functionality. We were well on our way to the digital signature, but we're having, some challenges with both suppliers and regulators, and then the pandemic hit. And to your point, we basically accelerated our plans from 20% to 100% in 2 weeks. So the implementation was incredible. As I said, we went from a concept to a full-blown solution backed by both the regulators and our suppliers, various suppliers, for electronic signature, literally within 2 weeks. So we accelerated 5 years. What would have probably taken us 5 years, we did in 2 weeks. And now I'm happy to say that this technology is being utilized all over the place. It's been utilized to speak with clients, it's helped them do transactions, and it's helping them feel comfortable in this very uncomfortable time. So it was quite the feat, but luckily we had already had a head start, and it really did give us an advantage over many of our competitors in the same space.
Thanks, Chris. We are, as you said, utilizing some of this technology to affect this recording, this webcast, and almost everyone is now familiar with FaceTime or Zoom, or in this case, MS Teams meetings. And we've implemented so many new pieces of technology over the last 3 to 4 months. It's been a steep learning curve, not only for us, but also for our clients. And the adaptation of technology, not only to stay connected with us, because we certainly don't place ourselves above the most important relationships like family, but to stay connected with the rest of family, especially through this time when we've been so socially distanced. But my question is, where do you see the future of financial services now that we're able to do this from a technology perspective? Maybe you can talk a little bit about what you see the future hold when it comes to the ability of people who work in financial services to adequately or even more adequately conduct relationships with their clients.
Well, this is a topic that I've been giving a lot of thought to, and not only myself and the other leaders of the organization, but right across the power companies, of how this is really going to change the way that we both interact with clients. So it's how our advisors interact with clients. It's also going to be how we interact with our advisors, and it's also how we are going to interact with our staff and our teams. And I think that there will be a lot more utilization of this type of technology for giving advice. I've often thought, how big is the market for people who want advice without the hassle of advice? In other words, people who don't want to get in a car, who don't want to drive and meet with their advisors, who would simply be happy to get on an interface like we're having right now, explain what my issues are, and have someone give me advice and guidance and help me through that. I think that would be, and I think we are going to continue. However, it should be advice the way you want it. There are clients who are very comfortable in this medium, as well as there's also clients who still want to have face-to-face meetings, and that's fine too. Right? In other words, we can accommodate any way that our clients want. Certainly from our interaction with advisors, we're able to speak with our advisors more frequently on more frequent topics. It's really helped in that communication. And from our staffing, we don't foresee our staff at any time. We don't think that more than 50% will ever be in the office ever again. I think that at least 50% of our staff will work from home at some point. They can still come in and go out, but that is going to be, as much as I hate the terminology, the new norm.
Well, I want to ask this as a follow-up question. I know that you touched on it very briefly before, the security of technology. It was kind of interesting just listening to you talk about sort of the history of where we've come from. We do have a lot of clients who still like to meet face-to-face and feel very comfortable with paper. That seems to be diminishing very quickly. But at the same time, in this adaptation of technology, it is apparent that some of our clients start to feel at risk. So it might be utilizing a banking application on their phone. It could be ordering something online. There's a whole variety of different things that all of us are doing and adapting to on an ongoing basis, which have the potential to feel that we are at risk. And certainly when we hear about data breaches and other things like that, we understand that no technology is perfectly sound, but maybe if you could just for a minute speak to this issue a little bit to give our clients some comfort about what we're doing.
It's a very good point, and one that I think all of us should take seriously is the confidentiality, the security of the technology that we work with, where we put our data, where we put our trust, all are very important questions right now. And it's one of the reasons that we decided to partner with Microsoft. We're a large company, even as through Power, but do we have the scope and capacity of a company like Microsoft, which has all the cloud computing, all the software, all the security protocols in place that we can just plug into? And so that's why we've chosen to go that route. Most transactions will take place the same way they took place before, albeit with a digital signature, which just makes it more convenient. So the next stage of that is going to be electronic account opening, electronic account access, which will all be, once again, behind the firewall. And so we're very, very, very cautious and always concerned about how we move data around, where that data is, and then how we do our transactions with clients. And as I said, one of the main reasons, even as a large company, that we partnered with even a bigger company to provide this to our clients is for that reason. And I think people can be pretty assured that if anyone's on top of it, probably Microsoft is on top of it.
More and more people want to ensure that their investments are being invested in companies that are going to provide a better future. Can you tell us a little bit about what IPC is doing in regards to socially responsible investing?
Well, IPC in itself is more of a financial planning platform. So it's really generally up to the individual advisors and where they go for that sort of advice and the recommendations they make. However, that being said, we do have a money management area, a portfolio service that we do help advisors and their clients in designing portfolios and picking managers and rebalancing and all the other services that go along with portfolio management. Within that, we are very we take a very strong view on socially responsible investing, everything from filtering, so making sure that we're not investing in the wrong companies, to even advocacy. So advocacy being, when we see a cause, we can vote as shareholders for certain causes, and we've taken a more active role in that type of proxy voting. And this is not just a council thing or an IPC thing. This goes right along the whole Power company. So when we vote as an advocacy group for a particular thing and we don't want a company to do it, they generally will listen. So this is one of our subtle ways as investors to make a big difference in socially responsible, outside of the, as I said, the basics of filtering out bad companies, filtering out bad behavior, not buying certain types of industries. We can actually be an advocate for people as well to make sure their money is being invested where their hearts are.
I think as our clients and investors in general become more and more savvy, they are taking more of an interest in this. So thank you for sharing that, because I believe that this is becoming not only important to us, but it is becoming very important at the investor level. So it's wonderful that you're working there proactively on all our behalf. I know that IPC has a huge heart for giving back, and I want to take a few minutes to just have a conversation with you about this. We know that there are many initiatives through the name that we refer to as IPC Cares. And one of those initiatives is one where you and I are partners, offering the opportunity for employees and for independent financial advisors with IPC to be a part of community development initiatives in the developing country of Honduras. Michael has been a couple of times, and my next trip is number 14. And how many is it for you, Chris?
Next trip will be 7.
No.
Wait, no, 8, 7, 8. I don't know. Close. 7 or 8.
It doesn't matter, but it's incredible. Absolutely. You and I have a unique bond when it comes to Honduras, as we both share a passion to serve those less fortunate in a poverty-stricken country that is currently horribly stricken with COVID-19 as a result of malnutrition and much less than optimal immune function, along with a very substandard public health system. So with the healthcare challenges and everything else that they have going on there, along with a lot of abject poverty, When we're there, we live together in remote villages with a small group of IPC people where our sole purpose is to bring them opportunity for self-sufficiency through health initiatives like cement floors instead of dirt floors, infrastructure like clean water projects and other initiatives. We raise funds in Canada to cover the cost of the projects that we go there together to work on. Chris, I am forever grateful to have you as a partner in this because you have a pure heart of gratitude for life in North America. And as you have most aptly stated, we won the lottery of life by being born here, although through no act of our own. It is an honor to work side by side with you, where you're very comfortable shedding your role as president and CEO of IPC and pick up a shovel and dig alongside everyone else. You truly have a servant's heart, and for that I am so grateful to have the opportunity to have a partner like you. Many of our clients are at least somewhat familiar with what we've been doing in Honduras since 2006, but perhaps you can speak a little to what IPC's view is when it comes to their give back strategy and how that works together with what we are doing together.
Well, thank you for that, Steve. And certainly you've been an inspiration to myself for not only getting me down there in the first time and then having me hooked on such an endeavor going forward.
You're welcome.
Being a good partner. And as you know, I don't like work, so I get you to do most of my work. Works out quite well. But it's a good question. And what is IPC Cares and where is our philosophy? Well, we try to think, again, when I founded IPC, I always thought of IPC as a family. And I know that in some cases sounds corny, or even, it sounds like a terminology that's thrown off by a lot of CEOs. But we have a great group of people that we are honored to work with. And so, as we grew and our success grew and we became, had more members of the family join us, we sort of latched on to this type of philosophy about family. And so IPC Cares really is about families and helping families do better in a lot of different cases. And although we have many endeavors in, of course, in Canada, from everything from junior achievement and helping young entrepreneurs thrive to working at Christmas with Salvation Army to help families who are underprivileged to provide children with gifts during Christmas time. Honduras is one that is dear to my heart personally, and as you know, I give both my time and financially, both from the company and from myself personally, because it is about families. And when you get there, it's very hard to describe to somebody who has never been there the conditions that they have to endure. And yet, I get more out of it because everyone I meet is so happy. They're so friendly. They just want to be your friend. I've mentioned this, one of the first villages I went to had over 200 children that were under the age of 12, just swarms of kids all over the place. And all you heard was laughter and, literally playing rock, paper, scissors for 2 hours with all of the kids. And so when you see that you can make a difference in their lives by just providing clean running water, providing a well so they don't have to walk 4 kilometers as it was with one village to bring clean drinking water to their families, to create self-sufficiency in helping businesses and microcredit unions, that's really what it is all about, is just helping families do better. And whether it's in Canada or whether it's in Honduras, really that's the focus of IPC Cares and has been and always will be.
I think that's why I really enjoy working with you, Chris. It's always a pleasure to be there with you. I thank you for your ongoing commitment and partnership with IPC, because it really has not only provided a lot of satisfaction for us to have the opportunity to give back, but we really do have opportunity to make profound changes in places that otherwise may not have had that opportunity. So thank you so much for your service, and we greatly appreciate it. Chris, I want to thank you for taking time again out of your day to spend time with us. What an incredible opportunity it is to have you communicate directly to our clients and the people in our community. We're very grateful for your leadership at IPC. We choose to do business with IPC in a huge part because you and your leadership team continue to display to us your commitment to us to be able to serve our clients as well as possible. So thank you so much for taking this time. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure. I always love speaking to clients, and certainly both of you, I think, as family. We've been together a long time, and anything that I can do to help either yourself or your clients or anybody within the community, I'm happy to do so.
Well, one of these days we're going to get to hug again. That seems kind of strange that hugging would be outlawed at this point in time, but we're actually going to get to do that sometime, and maybe that's back in Honduras. Who knows what the future holds? We're just going to let things unwind the way that they unwind. And again, I want to take time just to thank our clients for taking an interest in this. For those of you who are watching, and we will have this posted for both on social media and on our website for people to be able to view. And if there's someone you'd like to share that with, then feel free to share it around. Thank you so much for joining us today.